Marley was dead to begin with.
Or at least that's how Dickens would have started it, but this story doesn't begin with Marley, it begins with a question Britain keeps pretending that it doesn't need to answer, and that is, what would actually happen if Nigel Farage ever got to run the country, no longer a protest vote nor a pressure group, but as actual Prime Minister? Like my previous video, this isn't designed to be a hit piece and it isn't satire for satire's sake, it's a thought experiment, a ghost story about political consequences, because Dickens didn't write A Christmas Carol to scare people with stories of ghosts, he wrote it to scare them with the future, and just like Ebenezer Scrooge, Britain today is told comforting things like anger is honesty, that nostalgia is policy, that decline can be reversed simply by blaming the right minority of people. So today, I'm gonna borrow slightly from Dickens' structure and summon two visions of Britain, one of power and consequence and one of the future we narrowly avoid. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start our Farage Christmas Carol. The first spirit arrives quietly, no chains, no fire, just a ballot box. Nigel Farage doesn't seize power, he wins it. Low turnout, fragmented opposition, a campaign built not on detail but identity. Take back control becomes policy by mood rather than method, and at first things feel familiar. But then the language hardens, public broadcasters are accused of disloyalty for being impartial. Judges are framed as obstacles to the will of the people, universities become suspect spaces of elite thinking, and a government that claims to speak for the nation begins narrowing who counts as the nation, who counts as British. Immigration policy becomes symbolic rather than practical, expensive gestures replace workable systems, asylum is treated less as law and more as theatre, and remigration becomes the new stop the boat.
Reform are turning their attention away from illegal migration to those who are here entirely legally with what's called indefinite leave to remain.
Trade deals promise sovereignty but quietly shrink our influence. Britain stands alone, not proudly but irrelevantly. Workers are told that the market must be free. Unions are framed as relics. Regulation is nothing more than a word, even when it protects wages, safety and housing. The NHS isn't abolished, it's something worse. It's slowly starved. Private providers step in, temporarily. Waiting lists grow, responsibility dissolves. When it all fails, blame moves downwards. To migrants, to the unemployed, to protesters, the poor, single mothers and others, and always the promise remains. Just one more crackdown, just one more enemy, just one more rollback. But the ghost doesn't show riots, it shows something colder. A country that's become smaller, culturally, economically, morally, whilst insisting it's finally standing tall. Britain becomes Scrooge before redemption, counting pennies, locking doors, convinced the world is somehow cheating it. But then comes the final ghost, and this one doesn't shout, it doesn't sneer, it doesn't campaign or complain. It simply shows Britain continuing, messy, argumentative, imperfect and impractical, but fundamentally open. In this future, Farage never becomes Prime Minister, not because Britain becomes perfect some way, somehow, but because it chooses complexity over comfort. Immigration is debated seriously, not weaponized. Public services are repaired slowly, not sold off quietly. Media is criticized, but not crushed. The NHS remains flawed, but public remains ours. Workers retain rights that don't depend on employer generosity. And Britain cooperates internationally not because it's weak, but because isolation isn't a sign of strength. This isn't utopia. There are still strikes, there are still scandals, still frustration. But there is something vital that never disappears. The idea that politics is about responsibility, not resentment. That problems are solved by policy, not scapegoats. That leadership is measured by outcomes, not applause lines or far-right newspaper bylines. And Britain, like Scrooge, wakes up. Not richer, not purer, but a little wiser. Because the real warning of A Christmas Carol wasn't about ghosts, it was about time. That futures aren't destiny, they're decisions. And Britain still has one to make. The question isn't whether Nigel Farage could win power, it's whether Britain wants a future built on anger, on scapegoats, or one built on accountability, because the ghosts aren't coming, the ballot box is. And unlike Scrooge, Britain doesn't get shown the future in advance very often. Well, that's it. That's the end of the video and the end of another year. Thank you. And yep, I said it twice because I mean it double. I really appreciate that you guys have watched the videos. I hope you're having a great time off work, whether you're celebrating the time of year or not. And all that's left for me to do is wish you a happy and prosperous new year. And I hope to see you all in 26. Out.